Okay, here in Amsterdam at E-Revolution, I'm talking to Tony Seba, and he basically floored everybody again by predicting in 2030, 95% of all the kilometers will be EV and will be self-driving cars. How sure are you of their prediction?
We're pretty certain that when you do the numbers, when you combine electric vehicles, the duration, 500,000 miles, the cost of maintenance, the cost of charging, plus autonomous vehicles, plus on-demand transportation, essentially it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. If you abstract from any kind of form of reality and you look at the numbers,
Yes.
you go like, everybody would be crazy not to drive an electric car and would be crazy not to have an autonomous car.
This is on a purely economic basis. I mean, I make no judgment. This is not about climate. This is not about being green. This is purely about this green. On that day, when autonomous vehicles are approved, the cost of AEVs, autonomous electric on-demand vehicles, essentially are 1/10 of the cost of owning a car. And 10x has always enabled the disruption every single time in history since Gutenberg, since the first book that came out that was 10x cheaper.
We are basically going to change reality. The only problem is
Yes.
these car factories who have to produce, they have to produce one more time a couple of 100 million cars. And they are so slow in adapting. Don't you think they're very slow? And it is very complex to build a car. And I don't see other operators, even if you look at Tesla, who is wonderful, is struggling to do a teeny little bit of production.
Building an electric car is not hard. It only has 20 moving parts, as opposed to the internal combustion engine car, which is 2,000 plus moving parts. So you're right, making a nice car is
Very hard.
but making an EV is not. Tesla has never built a car, and that's the issue. But if existing OEMs wanted to get into the space, they could, and they could do it very quickly. Building a car factory for them would take a year. For a Tesla, of course, which has never done it before, it's taken longer than that. But building a car in and of itself is not hard.
But I can tell you, being a Tesla owner,
Yes.
it is really hard for Tesla to build a $150,000 car, which I basically have. And to do a $35,000 car will be even more difficult. And for some kind of reasons, all these other Mercedes and BMWs also have a hard time going to electric. Do you think it's only that they don't want to?
Yeah, those are two different things. So for Tesla, so when you design a car, you build a factory for that car. You can't just take any old building and basically
They actually took an old factory, but they had to completely redo
you
it.
basically redo it for that specific car. So they essentially designed, for instance, the Model 3, and they built the factory for the Model 3, and also they built the battery factory. So they're going back the value chain because the market did not believe that that was possible, so they're doing it all. And it's taken a little bit longer than most would have thought. However, making an EV itself, building a battery factory takes 9 months. For the leaders, for the Panasonics, for the Samsung SDIs of the world. But Tesla's building it from scratch. And
They do it with Panasonic, and they've done it actually pretty quick.
But they're already out with the Tesla Model 3. So from now on, it's a matter of scaling. And once you get factory number 1, all you need to do is copy and paste it. And copy and pasting it means you're going to be able to recreate it in 9 months anywhere around the world where you want. So if the incumbents are not there, and another thing about disruption is disruptions happen from the outside.
So you think it's not going to be the manufacturers of cars who are going to do the production thing, but you really see an Apple, they are okay with car, they are okay with phones, but do you think that they can make that move?
I don't think they will, but I do see 300 EV companies in China that essentially are getting into electric vehicles. I do see the Teslas of the world, the Proteras of the world, companies that essentially started from scratch, building EVs from scratch. Those are going to be the disruptors. The incumbents still have a chance. They have 2 years though. I mean, they are in an existential crisis. If they don't get it done within the next 2 years, they're out.
What is your experience? You talk to them. You're invited everywhere. They listen to your talk. They politely have a lunch afterwards. And what do you think? How serious are they?
They have. I have talked to some of them. I can't tell you who, but essentially, the problem with incumbents, just like Kodak and folks who were disrupted in the past, they knew the technology, they invented even the technology, but they're addicted to the cash flow. These companies are addicted to all the cash that's coming from internal combustion engine vehicles and the market, the repairs and the maintenance and all that. You're not going to get that with electric vehicles.
But they're telling a good story. I mean, Daimler says, our future is connected, autonomous, electric, and shared. That's what they basically to tell everybody who wants to hear.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. But look at where they're investing. They're still investing in quote unquote clean diesel, right? VW is still investing in quote unquote clean diesel. Any capital expenditure that goes into internal combustion engine today is going to be lost. Essentially, it's going to be wasted.
Yeah. You say also the experts have always a problem, especially the people inside. So we just had a presentation of Bloomberg Energy, who's very bullish on EV, but they say in 2030, 25% of new car sales will be electric and not 50, and it will take until 2040 before it goes to 50%. They have a complete slower view of the world. How come?
I'm not surprised. I mean, again, it's the insiders, it's the mainstream analysts who totally have linear kind of predictions. They don't see the system dynamics and the network effects and so on. No technology in history, ever. No technology has ever been adopted in a linear way. It happens as S-curves, and once you hit that tipping point, essentially it's over. It's going to grow super exponentially, and it's happened every single time in history. And folks who are denying...
You think 2025 will be the tipping point?
The day when autonomous vehicles are approved and ready, essentially that is when the S-curve is going to start. And it's pretty much over by 2030. Essentially, it's over. Dealers gone because by 2025 or so, because this is shifting from a business to consumer model where car companies sell to consumers.
I buy a service.
Yeah, exactly. We buy an Uber, we buy a Lyft, we buy a service. We're not going to own cars. It's going to be all fleet operated. So it's going to be B to B to C. And in fact, the Ubers of the world may even bypass the existing OEMs and go straight into their suppliers, who are the suppliers who make the cars anyway. 80% of cars are made by the tier 1 suppliers. So even the OEMs may get bypassed. So they're in an existential threat right now.
Now, you're also a good example of this business, right? You used to work for Cisco,
yes.
And then you're a computer guy, and you basically start talking about the automobile industry, because now it's computer on wheels.
Yes.
How has your message been received? Because 4 years ago, you gave exactly the same analysis you give now, and you're just going after the curve, and it basically more or less follows your curve. How has your message been accepted by the players and by this industry?
Yeah, now they're being accepted to a T. I mean, essentially 4 years ago, a lot of folks said that I was insane. And that's okay. That's a good sign in general. But, essentially last year we did a follow-up report with new numbers and so on. And my predictions have been on the money. I mean, to the month. EV costs have been from the market for 200-mile electric vehicles have been on the money by the month. And so now they're paying more attention. Now that we published Rethinking Transportation from my new think tank, RethinkX, and we used fresh numbers. We updated everything, and we said, here's the tipping point that's going to be in the early 2020s. We did the implications across the value chain. So what does this mean for dealers? What does this mean for the oil industry? What does this mean all the way back to the mining industry? Folks are paying attention. Companies have changed their strategy. GM now says we're a transport as a service company. And it came right out of our report.
Yeah, so that's really wonderful to have the computer
Yes.
guy saying to the car automobile world saying, hey, it will change. Now, 4 years ago, you made this analysis.
Yes.
You made a little bit detailed. It's the same.
Yeah.
What are you doing with your time, except for giving speeches? What area are you now analyzing?
So we're analyzing Rethink X. We're analyzing disruptions across industries. So we did transportation. We're doing version 2 of transportation soon. We're doing energy, agriculture, the disruption of the cow, for instance. We're doing healthcare. So we're doing analyses of disruptions across the board, their implications for society. All of that, that's what I'm doing now. That's what keeps me busy.
You moved up from the value chain from for the OZ model, and now you're basically changing society.
So yeah, exactly. So what does this mean for all of society? Not just in transport, not just in energy, but across the board, all sectors, all major sectors. And what are the implications for society? What are the implications for geopolitics? What are the implications for jobs and the environment, and so on and so forth? So that keeps me busy these days.
So one of your predictions too was that 50% of the jobs will disappear. You know, the current service jobs which we have nowadays, with all this disruption, at least half of the jobs will disappear.
I didn't say half the jobs. Essentially, what I said was that this analysis in transportation says that the jobs in the value chain of the internal combustion engine automobile, drivers, dealers, and so on, are going to disappear. On the other hand, there's going to be $2 trillion in additional GDP. And $2 trillion are going to generate far more jobs than the jobs that are going to be basically disappearing from the existing.
You're not so negative about. You think the amount of jobs don't necessarily go down.
Not at all. Not at all. We are going to, though, have to mitigate the downside, which is the jobs that are going to be lost. Because what is happening in transportation and what is going to happen in many industries is that whole industries are going to disappear. So it's not just the jobs themselves that are going to disappear, it's the industry. So we're going to have to provide financial support, provide social support, healthcare, and importantly, we're going to have to provide re-education, retraining, because folks are going to do new jobs in new industry. So it's a double whammy of sort.
There will be new industries and there will be new jobs. You have no doubt about that.
$2 trillion of additional GDP is 15% boost to GDP. That's a lot of jobs.
It is a lot of jobs, but we basically made sure that we don't need humans anymore for our strength, and the machines are going to do it automated. Now we have our brain, which we slowly automating. So slowly, large part of the usage for humans will go away. So will there also not be a point that we basically will be able to produce that fantastic gross national product with half the people?
So that's why we're analyzing disruptions across industry. So instead of basing these kind of job loss predictions on, magic, on robots are going to kill our jobs and whatever, we want to do it methodologically, industry by industry. And at the end, we want to aggregate all the industries, all the gains, all the losses. And on that basis, we can do that analysis.
We can follow you at, what's the website of the think tank?
Rethinkx.com. Rethinkx.com.
Thanks for coming.
My pleasure. Thank you.